Hugh is going to talk about wine. So that's why he's here. But actually, one of the reasons why I'm excited about Hugh coming is when Hugh accepted my invitation to come and speak today, I turned around to some agency friends and said, Hugh's the gaping void guy is going to come and talk about all his Web 2.0 strategy. And everybody said, who? And Hugh's got a great reputation in the blogosphere, especially in the US. And I've become surprised about how few people know about his work. His work with Stormhoek, which has got the attention of Microsoft subsequently. I would like you to welcome Hugh Macleod.
Hello. Hi, London. How's it going? My name is Hugh Macleod. I'm a professional blogger, and in a former life, I was a male prostitute. Well, I worked for Leo Burnett as a copywriter, which probably worse, actually. Yeah, I used to be a copywriter, and then about, 5 or 6 years ago, my career started tanking because I wasn't winning enough awards, which we all know is why we're in this business, to win awards. Has nothing to do with selling. It's awards. Well, at least if you're in the creative department. I know creative directors say it's really about selling, but they don't really mean it. Anyways, about the same time, let's go back 3 or 4 years, when my career was tanking. That's my blog. I wrote this treatise called the Cluetrain Manifesto, which said the market for something to believe in is infinite, which kind of what I believe, because I think we're all trying to find a reason of why we're in the business we are, and I think the best thing we're doing is trying to find meaning. And anyway, about a month after that, I got fired from my last agency job. Oh well. So by this time, this is my most famous work, and I get fired a month after writing it. How about that? Or made redundant, we'll call it what you will. So I got a job working with a Savile Row tailor. Hands up, who knows what Savile Row is? Okay, so we're talking 3,500 pound suits. And my friend Thomas here was doing very well on Savile Row, but not well enough because he was a really terrible marketer. So I built a blog for him, and it tripled his business in 6 months. Not bad. And I got a piece of it, even better. Okay? Then about 6 months into that, I got a call from a small winery in South Africa. Well, the guy who owned it, actually, an American guy who owns it, called Stormhoek, which was doing about 50,000 cases, selling to supermarkets, mostly in the UK. Small little bit of paradise in the middle of bloody nowhere. If you're in Cape Town, you probably have to drive about 7 hours before you go there. That's the winery. And, it's really isolated. This is kind of how I thought about the wine business. That's my cartoon, by the way. I got in the wine business so I could drone on and 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 on. Very staid business. A lot of people think of it as a bit like Falcon Crest. Who remembers Falcon Crest? It was really bad, wasn't it? All these nice people with Italian suits. Oil refinery called Grangemouth. Big, kind of up in Scotland where they were for British Petroleum. Actually, I'm lying. That's not an oil refinery. That's where they make wine. That's one of Gallo's many little production factories. This is the reality of wine. It's a very industrial product. All that stuff about terroir and all that stuff, that's great if you're selling for $200 a bottle, but you're selling for $5 a bottle, which is what most people drink, then it's more like that. Okay? You have a small winery in South Africa, that's you. That's Gallo. Okay? That's the reality. Not just Gallo, but Constellation, millions of cases. Foster's, who own Foster's Beer, they do millions of cases. Diageo, they do billions of cases. And if you're that little yellow guy, well, that green guy is kind of what the wine market actually looks like. That's kind of usually what happens to the little yellow guy. And we were the little yellow guy. Us, little us. However, thinking about it, there are three things about the wine trade which are quite interesting. Number one is there are no big brands compared to other fast-moving consumer goods. By that I mean there is no Microsoft in the wine business. There's no Gillette. There's no Coca-Cola. Hell, even Ernest and Julia Gallo, 2%. 2% market share. How about that? Very fragmented industry. Okay, here's a trivia question, guys. Out of 122 countries in the world, how many of them have major wine industries? Not just little distilling pots somewhere, but I mean, you know, proper businesses. 10? 10's not bad. 20? 50. 50 of them have it. Italy alone has 500,000 vineyards and 50,000 bottling lines. That's 50,000 brands in one little country competing for supermarket space. The small island of Sicily alone creates as much wine as Napa Valley. And I might also say sells it for 1/10 as much, so they actually kind of make the same amount of money. Kind of a lot of work, if you ask me. Oh, come on. Oh, well, it doesn't like me anymore. Oh, there we go. Sorry, it won't happen again. Besides that, you've got what I call lifestyle wineries. You just sold your company to Yahoo or Microsoft for $40 million, $20 million, $100 million. All of a sudden, you want to be a bit like an art collector. You want to kind of be like Charles Saatchi, except instead of art, you're selling wine. There are a lot of those wineries out there. People who will sink $50, $60, $70 million into a winery and make no money. And they go, but you know what? It gets the girls, so what the heck? You know, yeah, it's me and my winery. We're very important. I'm very important. My winery is very important. You know, Francis Ford Coppola is a very good example. Now, he's a very famous wine brand. He used to be a famous film director, and I don't know if he's making money. I really don't. The other thing is, for all that talk about terroir and, you know, my splendid vines, actually everywhere's kind of the same. You know, American vineyards, yeah, we've been farming grapes in here for 17 generations. My granddaddy was planting vines before he could walk. In France, you know, they've got hard-working noble peasants toiling under the noonday sun, just like California, just like Chile, just like everywhere else. Chile, got suckling grapes with the little hummingbirds sucking off the dewdrops in the morning sunrise, just like Australia. Just like New Zealand. Oh, New Zealand, they've got these kind of renowned kind of wine lover specialist professorial types who just spend all their time kind of sniffing glasses. And they've been doing that since they were 3 years old, just like everywhere else. And then, besides that, so you have ubiquity of the product globally. And then we have what we call communication silos. Everyone, who knows what a silo is? Not enough of you. Okay, wine spectator. Certain circles, you don't get your wine mentioned in the Spectator. You don't get distribution. You don't get it mentioned by Matthew Jukes in the Daily Mail. You don't get distribution. You don't get the celebrities kind of going on the BBC and telling how spectacular. People never heard of you. They have nothing to reference you by. You have this great little wine from wherever, South Africa, Argentina. They never heard of you. You know. So basically, most wineries have that as a business model. You know, I mean, it's kind of cool being an engineer, but, you know, a train driver, but that can happen. So this was the great thing. We had this tiny little winery no one's ever heard of, a budget of threepence, and millions and millions and millions, or at least hundreds of thousands of other competitors going for those same 500 slots or 600 slots in Threshers in Asda or Tesco. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of these things, and we had to somehow, besides the quality of the wine, we had to rise above that. That was my challenge. Luckily, I read a book called the Cluetrain Manifesto, written by 4 people. 2 of them are now friends of mine. The Cluetrain Manifesto was a book written in the late 90s, and its key thought was all markets are conversations. And the reason I really like this book is it was the first book that, to me, talked about how the internet actually worked, not how the media guys and the advertising pimps and the journalists said it worked. It actually, what it was about, it wasn't really about the technology, it was about people talking, and they can talk to each other. And their great premise was, because people can talk to each other, they're getting smarter faster than you are. In other words, the people using your product are learning more about your product at a faster rate of learning than you're learning about your product. Now, you may know a lot about your product because you're a specialist, but there's a lot of stuff you can't kid them with anymore. So I started writing about Stormhoek on my blog. This is the great marketing bloody button. This is the great marketing insight of the Web 2.0 is nobody cares. They really don't care. And even if you do buy that media space on ITV, that's great, because you know what? No one's watching ITV anymore. They're ignoring you. You know, when I was a kid, we had growing up in Scotland, we had 4 TV stations. We had to pay attention because it was either Channel 4 or flipping over to see David Attenborough's thing on kind of sea fungus. Our jobs were easy then. This is what I thought about. This is what I thought was really powerful about blogs. A very cheap place to start a smarter conversation. And I don't mean a smarter conversation saying, hey, I'm smarter than you because I'm a blogger and I know everything. It's more about, here's a chance to have a really intelligent conversation about what we do. And the thing is, you don't have to hire a film director. You don't have to buy any media. You don't have to hire an agency. You can just start talking about what you do. That's what I do with the tailoring blog. We didn't, the language of the tailoring blog wasn't, imagine yourselves, draped in luxury, yada, yada, yada. It was more like, well, this is how you make a coat. And all of a sudden, online, we're talking about how coats are actually made. And like I said, it tripled the business. So we decided to start a blog about the wine, not so much about our own wine, but about the what we were doing. And what we're really doing is trying to make money, because we're in business. So, Lego. Who here has kids? Lego. Actually, I don't have kids, but I had Lego when I was a kid. Key insight I got from Lego is Lego are just these little red primary color plastic bricks. They don't really do much. They kind of just sit there. And not very interesting. And yet they're totally fascinating. Why? Because it's not what Lego does that is so interesting, is what the child does with Lego that is interesting. That makes sense, doesn't it, Peter? Yes. Yes, very interesting. And I thought, that's the great thing about wine is it's not so much the wine that's interesting as what happens, with wine. Like for me, as a Scotsman, we get in fights. That's really fun. Or you try to get laid, or you talk about the meaning of life, or you're basically into this kind of human connection thing. And wine is drunk when you're actually trying to connect with people. And so we decided to connect with people. And because I was a blogger, I decided to start sending bottles of the Stormhoek out to bloggers. Do you remember that, Piers? Did you get any? No, I think you're in the wrong country. Yeah. So what we did is we came up with this new brand theory. If you want to have a cool product, you got to do cool shit. And this seemed like a cool thing to do because it wasn't like, please accept my wine and pimp it. I said, no, just take it. Do whatever you want. You want to not write about it? Fine. If you want to tell us awful, go ahead. We don't care. And we sent at first about 100 bottles in the UK. Then about half that to Irish. Ireland has a lot of blogs for some reason, especially in Cork. I have no idea why. Even the French. We got about 3 people from France, all bloggers. They're a bit, this is a bit intimidating. I'm not sure if I need permission to do this first, But, it was kind of cool. The funny thing is we needed their complicity. It wasn't like, it wasn't about, well, you got our wine now, shut the fuck up and start writing about our wine and telling everybody how great it was. We just said, we went from, hey, this is kind of interesting. Maybe if you all like it, you'll start writing about it. Maybe a kind of a Stormhoek virus will spread. But, you have to, I need your complicity to do that. There has to be something in it for you. Not just the wine, and not just thanking me for the wine, but just kind of, hey, you know what? I like all this kind of viral mojo. And I sent this cartoon book called Wine Blogging is Marketing Disruption, which I basically said that. I said, look, I can't do this by myself. I think it's a pretty interesting experiment. It's 2005. If this works, we can make marketing history and put a lot of agencies out of business. Yeah. Yeah, And all of a sudden, all these people started doing it and started taking it to geek dinners and everything and started posting everything on Flickr. Then they started taking photographs of the bottle. We had these specialist labels put on them, and they started appearing everywhere. Has anybody actually seen the Stormhoek bottles anywhere on the internet before? No? Oh, you have. Oh. That's because you're not in advertising. Anyways. So all of a sudden, we're starting to see what I'm setting out isn't so much promotional items, and it isn't so much the message. We weren't really talking about a wine. We knew if the wine was terrible, people would talk about it. If the wine was okay, people would talk about it. If the wine was great, people would talk about it. It wasn't in our hands. But what happened was people started saying, hey, Hugh Macleod sent me this wine bottle, and it's kind of cool. He's just doing this little kind of experiment and kind of web-enabled social marketing, and yak. Did I mention I was a consultant? Yak. Just all these conversations start springing up. And all of a sudden, I got into the idea of a really powerful social object. A social object being something that may be digital, intellectual, or in our case, molecular, that allows people to gather around and talk about something in the ability just to kind of connect with each other. And so all of a sudden we have this idea of we're not creating products anymore. What we're trying to do is create social objects. Okay, and count of three. Everybody repeat after me. 1, 2, 3. Social objects. That's right. And I decided that that's the future of marketing and advertising. Now, this was back when Robert Scoble was still working for Microsoft. He's, at the time, Microsoft's chief blogger. I wrote this thing on my blog saying, hey, why can't a small winery in South Africa see Google, Apple, Microsoft, Intel as their competition? Why can't we have this kind of gung-ho, let's take over the world kind of mentality, like Silicon Valley, like Redmond, Washington, like Cupertino, California? How can we have to measure ourselves just by the kind of rather staid, gentlemanly, boring South African wine trade? And he wrote back saying, yeah, that's a good question, because, hey, they could spend $300 on Xbox, or you could buy a couple of cases of Stormhoek. You got to compete. So all of a sudden, the virus started spreading within Microsoft. All of a sudden, the people I was relating to weren't so much, your average kind of, yummy mummy wine snob from Chelsea. It was geeks. Silicon Valley, Redmond, Washington, people at Apple. All of a sudden, because they're all on the internet and us, they're finding out about it. So we started sponsoring geek dinners. Like I said, it's not just about the wine. It's about the people using it. Then to up the ante, instead of just sending, when we launched in America last year, instead of just sending American bloggers freebies, we said, tell you what, if you're having a geek dinner, anyone in the United States, and you're a blogger, let us know, we'll supply the wine. So what happened is people all over the United States started having geek dinners that they organized themselves. I'm not lying. That's what happened. They started organizing themselves, and they sent me emails. Hey, we're based here in Alabama or Arkansas. We're going to meet up with some kind of coders, and we're going to kind of hang out and just eat watermelon. Can we have some wine? So we sent them some wine. Also, because I'm a cartoonist, we sent a limited edition print that I signed each one. Just said, a bottle of wine just says, buy me or the puppy gets it. I'm in marketing. I don't know. Please buy my product. I don't want to be poor. Please buy my ad. Please buy my media schedule. Please. Don't give your money to Barlow Booger Haggerty. Give it to me, yes. Yeah, so I did that. And look, they started taking photographs. Okay? I don't know. Then TechCrunch. Who's heard of TechCrunch? Okay, good. TechCrunch had their party in August last year. It was the biggest Silicon Valley party of the year. 800 people turned up. I made 800 prints for them. And now there are hundreds of prints that I drew or printed hanging out in the offices of Silicon Valley. That's very cool, yeah? I think it's cool. If you're into geek stuff. Valley Red called us the unofficial cult wine of Silicon Valley. Even though Silicon Valley is about 7,000 miles away from from Stormhoek, it's only 30 miles away from Napa Valley. But that's the internet. Why? How come everything has to be down the road, huh? One of the prints went on eBay, sold for $300. Oh, okay. Then we did that. Then we did. I put a virus on my. I put that coupon on my server. It's 40% off Threshers. That was on my server. That went viral. I did that. That was me. Made the national news. That's me going around 50 Tesco's with a cameraman doing a little documentary about pimping wine in Tesco's. More unexpected results. We started winning awards, for all our, groovy Web 2.0 marketing. This what made me really happy because my career tanked in advertising. I'd never won an award in my life. Again, with the advertising age, marketing 50. That's pretty hard, isn't it? That's pretty big in America. That's like campaign giving you the whole front page. And I was really happy about that. Now this is great. This very influential wine website in South Africa mentioned us. Great. Some grocer, the biggest grocer in South Africa, saw that one blog post, ordered 30,000 cases from us. We're a 50,000 a year caser. I really read that article. Can I order 30,000 cases? And it wasn't just the marketing. The same year, we won the best pinotage in the world by a very major competition. So we're not vinegar, okay? I'm getting to my point. Okay, so I'm doing all this groovy stuff. I don't have to wear a tie for a living. I sleep till noon every day. But I work 2 hours a week. I make a lot more money than I ever did in advertising. But what did I actually do for these people? Oh, well, change the attitude a bit. This is what helped it. Our competition, reading about us in the wine press, start bitching about us. Who are these assholes with all their bloggy-woggy stuff? The thing is, you got enough competition bitching about you, eventually the buyers hear about you. It makes it a lot easier to get meetings. This is what we got. I started in 2005, 50,000 cases. Last year, 100,000 cases. This first quarter, 65,000 cases. Targeted 280,000 cases a year. We spent under 20,000 pounds. That's what I do for a living. Thank you very much. Is there anybody have any questions? Hello. Just call me Oprah. Oh, hi.
Hi, Kieran. One question actually from the discussion at the end of this morning's session where people talk about inspiration and yada, yada, yada. I'd be really interested you mentioned internal change. If you could talk
very much. Can I 1 minute on internal change?
With regards to the Microsoft stuff as well, in terms of change or go home, because that, to me, to change a company like that must be incredible.
Okay, let me tell you. Okay, give me 1 minute, Pierce.
Tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, let's see. This is a cartoon I put on my website. Has a Stormhoek label there. It says, "Change the world to go home," which is something I feel about Microsoft. Make a long story short, it went viral within Microsoft. People started downloading the high-res version off my internet, and they started printing it out and putting on stickers, putting on T-shirts. They offered me consultancy gigs. We're going to put this cartoon on a Stormhoek bottle and use it as a kind of drinks party geek social object thing. Steve Ballmer hates my guts. No, he doesn't. But this has started out, this is actually an ad for Stormhoek that costs nothing to make, except for bandwidth on my part. And people are, Microsoft employees are putting on their T-shirts and walking around conventions with this on. And Stormhoek's at the bottom of that. And so when our buyers go see our customers, instead of saying, "Please buy my wine, please taste my wine, please let me give you a discount," they start talking about Microsoft instead. All of a sudden, we're having what I call a smarter conversation. So yeah, I think with blogging Web 2.0, the internal disruption you do inside your company might make more money than external sales, especially initially. So yeah, understand that blog marketing is very disruptive internally, and so if you're going on that path, please understand in advance what you're actually trying to disrupt. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have isn't there a contradiction now when you say in just over a year you go from 50,000 cases to 280,000?
Okay.
And how does that affect not just the quality of the product, but also the exclusivity of it? Because what you're doing is by broadening the base, I mean, you're not going to turn yourself into a Gallo, but you are moving away from what made it special in the first place.
Yeah, by the time I totally trash the brand, I'll be totally rich, so I don't care.
That's my thinking.
What would you do?
Hello, Hugh. Hello. Would you? Obviously, this is a really powerful thing that you've done here. Could companies do it for products that really suck?
Their jobs will not be made easier. I mean, I'll be honest, Stormhoek is not like Chateau Lafite. It's a pretty damn good wine for £5 or £6. It's not, you're not buying a 200-pound wine for £5. Actually, 200-pound wine usually costs 400 pounds, but that's another story. I don't know. I think when, okay, I think if your product is shit, you should quit your job and go do something else, because I think life's too short. I don't know. I mean, you could do like some really cool stuff for, I don't know, Raisin Bran. I don't know. I just never have. I think it's what makes the product interesting. It's not just the molecules and the mechanics of production, but also the heart and soul that goes into making it live. So it's really hard, especially in the wine business, to have a really crap product because the competition, even to get your foot in the door, is actually pretty high. So I don't know.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.